We should. Yeah, it's recorded too.
We have some medicine for you to bring back. These sage bundles were handpicked by myself and my family from Santa Maria, California. And so it hasn't been touched by anyone else. There's some flashlights in there. There's a bunch of warm ski masks and things for the winter. And then my wife. Didn't you say something else was in there, Jerome? Oh, there's some thermal shirts for children. And my wife donated this. Thank you for coming. I wish we could be there, but we're here trying to help. There's one of those sage for each of you, but for the community, of course.
Put that in this
I bet you guys are as nervous as I am.
Are we live?
Yeah, right.
We're live?
We're getting better.
Okay, well, I think we're going to get started in a bit. I think we're going to start a little bit late, like at 5:05.
We got all evening. We're not going nowhere. Indian time.
Right, like me all the time. Any nerves? Yeah, you can come and introduce our moderator, and I turn the video, and then get open your mic, and I think she's gonna yeah, so
Yeah, basically dates and what they're called. So we can do that in history. Tell the history of this area. At least my basic history, not everything. The wrongdoings, the black heroes, the control, those are the two main ones.
Nice. Well, and this actually, I gave a lecture this morning, just a little under the weather, and it was enough since my class is large enough that I have to sort of pay attention to a lot of young people. So I just lost a lot of voice
Thank you all for coming. We're about to get started. A special thank you to Councilman Harrison and Councilman Two Bears. We cannot overstate the gratitude that we have for your being here. And thank you for your flexibility as well. This is kind of a tumultuous planning thing, lots of details to get in order, but we're here and we're thankful. My name is Jack. I'm co-president this year of Duke Environmental Alliance. We're a student organization that promotes sustainability and environmental health and justice on campus and in the community. And it's been our pleasure to work with the Duke Native American Student Alliance on campus to make this event happen. Shortly, there'll be a brief introduction as to what's going on in North Dakota right now. And the events there are monumentous for a number of reasons, but tonight the discussion is going to focus on environmental justice, tribal sovereignty, and organizing. In order to ensure that this event is as smooth and as informative as possible for everyone, we're going to have approximately 45 minutes of moderated discussion with some opening statements, and then we're going to open the floor for questions because it's important that we engage the community. Now I'm going to turn the floor over to Native American Student Alliance Co-President Ashley Clark.
Duke University a button cup. Ado Dune, shit, Ado Dune. Oh goodness, I'm really nervous. She's doing great. Can I just preface and say that this is a very powerful moment for me, and I'm just really proud you're all here. I'm trying to speak my language and I'm holding back tears. I'm just really proud of you. Ado Dune Mishli Kiani Mishli, Kutsokni Bashishtim, Hashka Hazukta, Shiche Ado, Sitnantini Dushinellis. Hello everyone, my name is Ashley Kaw and I'm a proud member of the Navajo Nation. And I'm from Phoenix, Arizona. I'm a junior here and I'm the co-president of the Native American Student Alliance. Currently a junior, and I'm just really proud to have all of you here, to have you all in this room, because I know that you are all here for a specific reason. We're all here because we support or want to support or be there for the struggle that is going on in Standing Rock. And I know that we all have been living through the media and living through pictures and photos of what we see. And this is just we organized this event to give you guys a little taste to hear what's actually really going on. And these guys are going to keep it real. They're from there and they're in there day in and day out through the whole struggle. And I'm just really proud. And I hope we all are here and we're present and we listen and we take what we have here, what we hear from these people, and we really work towards something. Like, I don't want you guys to just be here and then never see you guys again. Like, I feel like this is a moment in our Native history where it's really where we're reclaiming our nations and we're reclaiming our own sovereignty, and that's something that we can redefine as we're here. And yeah, so I'm just really proud. Thank you guys all for coming, and I'll hand it over to Shanti so she can thank you. Ego should ne ashe Asian in American she attached in a single now kind of hit but but I listen to not kind of not kind of hit without a the net on this let be misguided not shop and I think that everybody's Hello, my name is Janine Herrera. I am from Monument Valley, Utah on the Navajo Reservation. I'm a proud member of the Navajo tribe. And I'm also the treasurer for the Native American Student Alliance here at Duke, and I'm a sophomore and I'm studying public policy. And I am so happy to see all you guys here. We weren't sure when we were planning this event, how many people would show up or how many would be interested, so this is such a relief. Thank you all for coming. So right now I'd like to introduce Christine Fulch, who is a professor of cultural anthropology here at Duke. She has been to Standing Rock, so we invited her here to be the moderator for our event. And lastly, I would like to introduce our guest speakers, Cody Two Bears, who is the Cannonball District Representative, and Chad Harrison, who is the Councilman at Large. So please join me in giving them a warm welcome.
Yes. Wow. Usually I don't need to speak with a microphone, but I teach Intro to Cultural Anthropology, and I had a lot of rowdy students this morning, so my voice got a little lost. So I just want to welcome people to this room. I know it's a little warm. If people want to take seats on the ground, like some people are, that might be a solution. The first thing I want to say is that it is an honor to be here and to get to be part of today. And I also want to acknowledge that we are on native land right now. And just to make that clear, even though sometimes the histories are less visible, I think one of the things that we are seeing through Standing Rock is the making visible of histories that have been made invisible, and histories that aren't actually that far past. And in fact, I would argue that what we're seeing is that the past is present. And this is what we get to participate in tonight. I think this is a historic moment for us here to get to hear from two members of the Tribal Council of Standing Rock, but also more than just that, to get to witness and participate in learning about what is happening, not just in North Dakota, but actually across the United States, and not just in the United States, but hey, there's Canada too. And not just Canada, but actually all through this hemisphere. And actually not just this hemisphere. The Standing Rock struggle has captured the imagination of communities all across the world. And so I'm actually not going to, even though as a Latina I could talk the entire time, I'm actually not going to be the person who talks a lot, but I just want to let you know a little bit of what it looks like to go to the big camp. There are several camps actually. So Standing Rock Reservation has been crossed by the dividing line between North and South Dakota. It has a storied history. This is where Sitting Bull's grave is. And it's the reservation that Barack Obama and Michelle Obama visited in 2014. This is an important community. Quite recently, and we're going to hear more from our guests, quite recently, Standing Rock has come into the news because a group of young people, and a group of maybe not as young people, decided to oppose the construction of a pipeline just outside, just upriver from their home. And their small prayer camp ignited the imagination of thousands and thousands. And their work has actually grown quite large. And so we are here to listen to some stories about why that happened, and to yield ourselves to these stories. So I think what I'd like to do is I'd like to leave it to, well, I think, okay, one image I want to give you guys of the big camp is what it looks like to drive in with hundreds of flags beating in the North Dakota wind, which is kind of chilly, of the hundreds and hundreds and hundreds of communities that have come to show their physical solidarity with them. So we're participating in a way in that as well. And I also just want to give credit to these two student groups who got this done in a handful of days, mostly at night, let's be honest, like emails at 1 o'clock in the morning. So congratulations to the Native American Student Alliance, and congratulations to the Environmental Alliance. You all have done amazing job. Okay, so I'm just going to put that right there, sorry, in front of you. Perhaps, I think something that might be helpful to hear. So some of us know a lot about Standing Rock. You all know a lot more, but some of us are actually quite new to this and maybe don't know very much about what's happening right now. So I'm wondering if you could orient us a little bit about what's going on, what is the Dakota Access Pipeline, and what is the Black Snake, and why do you all call yourselves water protectors? I know there's like 8 questions there.
I guess I'll go ahead and start. Well, good evening. My name is Chad. Just want to thank you guys for having us out here, and thank you guys for showing up. But most of all, I want to thank you for being interested in protecting water.
Can you speak up or turn the microphone up? You can't hear back there.
The mic is on. Is there?
Okay. I'll just speak a little louder. Okay. Believe it or not, I was a teacher as well. Okay. Like I said, I want to thank you guys for inviting us out. Thank you for showing the interest of being here, and also showing, and most of all, showing an interest in our water. Water is unifying worldwide. It's something that we all need, and we'll get to that water protected part in a second. We do want to orient everybody with to Standing Rock, not just the physical place, but also where we're coming, because I have a pretty good feeling that a lot of the questions are going to be really interconnected with treaties, social injustices, and a whole bunch of other stuff. So just to give you a little bit of a backdrop, if you haven't been to North Dakota is, a lot of people actually don't quite know where it's at, but it's in the north central part of the Great Plains, we border Canada, we're in between Minnesota and Montana. The Standing Rock Reservation is in the north or south central part of North Dakota and the north central part of South Dakota. We run one of our borders, our eastern border is the Missouri River, and that is a very important part of this conversation. One of the words that was mentioned in the introduction was sovereignty. One of the failures is an understanding of what sovereignty is and what it means to the tribes across the nation. And we'll get into this deeper as we go, but I'll give you just a quick little tidbit of this. Sovereignty means we have our own government. We govern ourselves. We are a nation within a nation. We're a domestic nation. Oftentimes we get asked, Cody and I, and the other council members, how does our council, what is a parallel to it? I mean, most people automatically think it's a local legislative level, but in reality, we're more, the councilmen are more akin to your congressionals, your people in the state, in Washington, your state senators and representatives. We have the same type of responsibilities to run our nation, and that's the beginning of the sovereign discussion. Our chairman is closer to being, probably in between a governor and a president of sorts. So we have that relationship with the federal government. We also have it with the state governments. For us, it's 2 states, so we have to deal with both North and South Dakota. And states a little bit less than the federal government. And that's just the very tip of the iceberg with this. We'll get into more detail as we go, but just wanted you to understand that where Standing Rock was state-wise, also some of the relationships we have to deal with, because this is going to, as the story unfolds, you're going to see that it really plays an important role in what has and what has not happened over the course of really centuries, and how it has come to a head here with this movement. So with that, I'll turn it over to Cody and let him give you a little more background.
How Madakiapi Betukile Chante Washte Nape Chuzapelo. All my relations, with a good heart, I greet each and every one of you, and thank you all for coming. My name is Cody Two Bears, Mato Nupa in our language, councilman of the Cannonball community, Ayapaha of the Standing Rock Oyate. I'm Yanktane from the Cuthead Band. My ancestors come from the east side of the Missouri River and lived there for 125 years before 1862, when the Minnesota Uprising and the Whitestone Hill Massacre moved us to the west side of the Missouri River. I speak to you today with a strong heart. The government, once again, is threatening our way of life. First it was our land in the 1800s. Then it was our buffalo. And now it's our water. I keep hearing that we have 0 to none chance of stopping the Dakota Access Pipeline. But with peace and prayer and ceremony, we was guided. And if we continue that effort, we was told we will win with peace and prayer. And and that's how we'll continue this fight. And like our Chief Sitting Bull said, you heard that word, Chief Sitting Bull, the great chief of our people. He said this, and he thought 7 generations ahead. And he said, let's put our minds together to see what life we can make for our children. And if we really sit here and think, what type of life are we making for our children today? What type of environment are we leaving them today? And that's something we really have to really think about. Just kind of want to share you before we continue on, real quick, a few minutes about our history, because it's tough to know what's going on today without knowing what happened to us in the past. We're a treaty tribe. Standing Rock Sioux tribe is a treaty tribe. And 1851, Fort Laramie Treaty. Recently, you probably heard that on the news. Original treaty territory lands. And when we talk about the pipeline going north of the reservation, and they tell us that it's not on your reservation, but yes it is. That's original treaty territory land where our ancestors roamed, lived for the last 500 years. That's in our original land there. When I continue on, and I talk to you about the government and nation-to-nation relationships, like Councilman Harrison said, we have to have relationships with the government, directly to the White House, directly to the governor of our state. We're afforded that through our treaty. We are a sovereign nation. We have our own police, we have our own hospital, we have everything we manage within ourselves. So we signed a treaty in 1851. Not too long after, in 1877, it was called the Sell or Starve Act. That wasn't agreed to by our people. They took our Black Hills away because they found gold. Without consultation of our tribe, this government has took our land. They took out over $3 trillion of gold on our land today. Just another act of Congress that this government has treated us with the nation-to-nation relationship. It's 1887, the General Allotment Act, also called as the Dawes Act, which they put us in individual allotments into communal lands and individual family holdings. So once again, they took more land away from our people without the approval of our nation. I can go on again. In 1889, there was an act which they partitioned the Great Sioux Nation into reservations, is what you see today. That's how Standing Rock came about in 1889. They put us on our reservation borders, and they shrunk us down again and took our land away from our people without consultation, without having that nation-to-nation relationship. And just recently, 1944, Flood Control Act, or better known as the Pick-Sloan Act. They flooded our people's land and made us take higher ground. The community which I represent, Cannonball, where the camp is today, and where the protests are going on. In 1944, they flooded my people out in Cannonball, and we all had to relocate and rebuild by this government. And like I said, once again, I say nation-to-nation relationship. Where is that today? Where has that been in the past? And then we look at today, once again, Dakota Access Pipeline. Like I said, it was our land, our buffalo, and now today, they're jeopardizing our water. So that's just kind of a brief history today that I wanted to share with you moving forward, so you all understand why there's a big movement going on today. It's because it's a time for change. It's a time for Native nations, indigenous nations across the world to start to stand up and fight for their rights. Fight for any little natural resource we have left to preserve that for our future generations to come. Thank you.
Thank you so much. I've just been tweeting with you guys. So I wondered, so can you tell us, what is the Dakota Access Pipeline? And what are you trying to do? You guys have given us, I think one of the things that's worth reiterating, right, that you guys are coming from the actual affected land, and it'd be really helpful for us. You've situated history. You put this in the context of lack of nation-to-nation relations and conversations, lack of consultation. What are they trying to do? And what would you like to see happen?
All right. The Dakota Access Pipeline is actually a subsidiary of the Energy Transfer Partners based out of Dallas, Texas. And in North Dakota, over the last few years, there's been an absolute oil boom. I believe we are second in the nation now as oil production, and next to Texas. And it's all based on one formation, the Bakken Formation, which is located in the northeast, or northwest, I'm sorry, basin in North Dakota. So over the last few years, it's been, I mean, just a phenomenal amount of oil development. There are just hundreds and hundreds of wells that were pumped in, oil was tapped there. And over those years, the state and the oil companies have found that it's very difficult to move that oil. There's trains, there's been a few train wrecks, things like that. There's trucking. There's one of our sister reservations, the Fort Berthold Reservation. For a while, we're experiencing one fatality a day average on car accidents because of the truck traffic and things like that. A lot of the folks, the truckers, were from out of state, did not know how to deal with the conditions, especially when winter comes and things like that. So having that pressure kind of more the idea of the pipeline. They want to move the Bakken shale oil from there down to a point in Illinois where they can then ship it via barge and large refineries and whatnot. So that's the origin of the pipeline. One of the primary issues that has allowed this and has been a point of contention is there was a nationwide permit from the Army Corps of Engineers, NWP 12, that was in 2012. The nationwide permit was intended to expedite public projects. So rather than go through the whole permitting process in a real slow way, they put this permit, which is supposed to be for public benefit. And for some odd reason, the Dakota Access Pipeline managed to shoehorn themselves under this permit. And there's still a question which remains, how do they fit in there? This is a private company, for-profit company, using this nationwide permit, which is supposed to be for public good. And the argument that has been given is that it is in the name of national security, meaning if we can pipe the oil, the more oil we can get to the refineries, the less we are dependent on Saudi oil and overseas oil. So that's their argument. Needless to say, this permit allowed them to proceed. we're not the only ones fighting, by the way. There's a lot of Iowa farmers and things like this because of the use of eminent domain, which came with that permitting. So when they started using eminent domain, they started to look for easier ways to traverse the land. Right now, if you were to pull up a map of the Dakota Access Pipeline, you'll see that there are a couple of other minor pipes, and then again, this is going to be a point that becomes very important. So there are some easements already granted for public utilities. There's the natural gas pipeline, as well as some overhead electricity transmission lines. And they piggybacked on this, and that kind of laid out a route for them, primarily a route. The problem is, the natural gas pipeline, I believe, is 4 inches in diameter, okay? That Dakota Access Pipeline is 30 inches in diameter, okay? And we've had to become much more proficient at the science of this, but a natural gas pipeline bursts, it dissipates in the air. Oil, we all know what that does. And you can just see the volume. So the volume that they're proposing to pipe is 470,000 barrels a day. It's supposed to go through this 30-inch pipe. So obviously, there's flags that come up with that. But that's where the pipeline originated. That's how it came. Now, when we started to really get on the front end of this and started to oppose this and started to look at how they came up with permits and where did they not have a permit yet. The Missouri River crossing, at that point, there's 2 crossings, one north of us and the one right way north, and the one immediately north to us. Neither was granted as of that point. And that's when we started to engage the Army Corps of Engineers in a more aggressive manner. And I'll let Corey talk about the consultation piece, but that didn't happen. So that's where we started to become a little more aggressive. And we asked a lot of it to ourselves. During our hearings, we've asked that too, is why would we start to construct something when all the permits are not in place? And it doesn't take a lot of imagination to see a strategy there. Okay, if this is the last quarter mile that needs to be done in a 1,200 mile pipeline, and there's a quarter mile holding it up, it almost stands to reason who in the right mind would deny that. Well, we're trying to deny that, and we think we're in our right mind. So that's where a lot of this started to come. That's a little bit about the origin of the pipeline and how it proceeded. And it was a rapid procession. One of the points that is often asked of us is, why didn't you oppose this long ago? Dakota Access actually came to our tribal chambers, to our council at the time, back in 2014. Immediately there was a resolution passed opposing this, and it was flat out told to them, we'll never approve this, we will oppose this, forever. And from that point, we did have a lot of letters. We've got a volume, a good book of letters that were written in response to this. And again, it goes to that lack of listening, lack of actual consultation, and whatnot. So that's basically what the Dakota Access Pipeline is. And it's meant to transport shale oil from North Dakota down to Illinois. And there's a whole bunch of steps that were missed, things that have proven quite vital to the welfare of the people along that route. And as I said, I just want to reiterate that again. Although our movement has gained a global status, there's other movements along with it. There's other states, people in those states, individuals who did not like the use of eminent domain. They don't like the fact that they got run over in the process as well. And we'll see a lot of this stuff starting to kind of meld together as we go through this situation here.
So Dakota Access Pipeline, what are they trying to accomplish? What are they trying to do? And what are they currently doing today that's affecting not only our tribe, but everyone? Just some more knowledge about the situation that's been going on and kind of the things that Chad has said about saying, oh, we're not for the national interest of this company. It's a national security that this needs to be put in place today for this nation to overcome what's going on here. And I truly disagree with everything that the Corps is saying, everything that Dakota Access is saying. First and foremost, our main concern of the Dakota Access is not only the water, but our sacred sites. Just to give you some facts that happened, I went over there to the court hearing in DC, the first injunction that we put out on the court, or on Dakota Access Pipeline to stop the construction, because they're breaking section 106 that this government created for indigenous people's rights to preserve our historical sites. This government created another law, and what's happening today is with that law, we were supposed to have face-to-face conversations beyond the ground with the state historic preservation department, work hand in hand with them, because Dakota Access Pipeline keeps saying we have the best archaeologists going along the corridor. But the best archaeologists don't know our way of life. They don't know what to look for. We have a different way of noticing what's sacred to us on our original homelands, where our ancestors grew up. And they're failing on that again today. Judge Borsberg made a comment that day in court. I need a more specific map, he says, on where these sacred sites are located. So the following week, we gave him that specific map. We showed him, and it was on a Friday when they got that. Dakota Access Pipeline was 30, 40 miles away from where we were. And the next day, of course, when you get court something, the other side gets to see it. We all know that. So they got to see right where those sites were. And this was a true fact. That's what you saw with the dogs. Are people getting bit, maced? Because they came through right to those spots and start damaging those lands. And they were 30, 40 miles away. How could you jump 30, 40 miles away right to these locations? And I always look at it as it's just like doing it on a veterans memorial cemetery. There ain't no different to our people. That's just one of the wrongdoings that Dakota Access Pipeline is doing. But that's just to give you an idea. And then when they say national interest of this country, and they're telling our people that this is a national security crisis, I just want to give you a few examples of how much our people in Standing Rock, and not just Standing Rock, but Native nations around this country has given to this national interest of this country. Like I said, Black Hills, we gave this country $3 trillion of our Black Hills. They offered us a measly $18 million in 1980 in a settlement that we never agreed to. That money's still sitting in the bank today, and it's over $1 billion in there, and our people will never take money for land. We'll never sell out for our water. It's not about money to us. And like I said, the Flood Control Act, national interest, the Flood Control Act that created the river that generates $800 to $900 million a year, Western Area Power Association, that flooded our land out, They use that for hydropower, that power the whole region for power. Our people gave that to the region. We suffered for that, once again. We gave so much to this national interest of this country. And what little we have left, we're trying to preserve today. And that's what I'm telling you, is that when they tell us again, once again, they have to utilize our resources for this national interest, I tell them these stories and I tell them, you know what, enough's enough, because we have no much more to give. We have to preserve what we have left for our children and the unborn. That's why today it's so important, because we have nothing left to give. They can't take any more land. We're shrinking down. And we, like I said, it's not just our tribe, but all tribes across this country. All indigenous peoples around the world, this is happening to. So that's what I tell them when they come see me about national interest. We gave enough now. And we're not against, you know, when we say, if we're saying, oh, we're against pipelines, they're going to come back and say to us, oh, you against, you know, the labor unions, the workforce. You know, you're against all these things. So then I have to tell them, you know what, then reroute it then. Reroute it. Don't go across our water. Plain and simple. That's all we're saying. And the things that Dakota Access Pipeline is doing today is, you see it. You see it on social media. And they're way down in Dallas. I mean, what they're doing in North Dakota has no effect on them. They don't care. And I went down to Energy Partner Transfers last week. I went down to their headquarters in Dallas. And when we talk about consultation, today it's just a checkbox. They came to our nation and they told us, this is what we're going to do. We passed a resolution against it. But to them, consultation, they just told us in the checkbox. To me, that's not true consultation. Consultation means if you're at an impasse or a disagreement, you work together on a conclusion. Not just tell somebody you're going to do it and then checkbox away. But that just tells you what the Corps and this federal government thinks of our people. It's the lowest permit fast tracking possible that they're doing on our people. They're thinking we're nothing, basically, is what they're saying. And the Missouri River is the second most fresh water source in this country. And it's just not going to affect us, it's going to affect everyone downstream. That's why it's so important. And it's not about Standing Rock. What she said earlier, it's not about Standing Rock. It's not about Native nations. This is for everyone. The people that are fighting up there today is for everyone. And that's why we're doing that today. Thank you.
I think one of the things that has really been impressive just in these few minutes is how these guys are experts on natural gas pipeline mechanics and treaty law from the 19th century and all of, some sections of laws about sacred sites. It's just an incredible wealth of knowledge right here at this table, and you honor us. So I was struck by the comment that cheap oil is for national security, but clean water, it's not just the Missouri, right? Aren't we trying to pass it over the Mississippi? Is that, do I have that right? Is the oil going to go across the Mississippi as well, or just Missouri?
Just to Missouri.
Okay. Nevertheless, we're talking major river sources, and it's just really interesting that clean water is not a national security to us. Yeah, I would love to hear if you have more to say about. I'm sure you have more to say about that, but it just strikes me that felt really chilling to hear.
The truth of the matter is that there are actually hundreds of river crossings on this route, but it's not as major as the Missouri River. The point where it's crossing just north of us, the point of contention here, is the northern edge of Lake Oahe. Mere 15 miles south of there, in my home, 48. If you look across the Oahe reservoir, it's about a mile wide. Okay, so if you can imagine a mile wide river, and that goes down for another, it's got to be 100 miles or so to the Oahe Dam. So we got this gigantic body of water. And where they're crossing is right at the northern edge of that. So the river narrows a bit and becomes the river again. But, water's flowing downstream. So if something were to happen catastrophic, it's going to affect that whole body of water, one way, shape, or form. And that's, again, to that point, that begs the question, well, where is the national security? Where's the priorities for national security? And it's been said on a lot of videos out there, people can't drink oil. They have to drink water. It's a resource which is getting less and less potable. We all know what's going on with bottled water and things, but very, very rarely can you go and do minimized treatment of water. And we're actually able to do that we've got a treatment plant right there in 48, which goes around to different communities. And it's some of the best water around. We've had comments about it, but it comes from a clean source to begin with, so you don't have to do much to it. Just add a few things and there you go, a couple minerals or something. But it's good water to begin with, and that's what you have to start with. If you got to clean up a mess, you're never going to have that good clean water. The national security question is a very good one. It's a valid question because you start to weigh you put it on a scale. How much is clean water worth versus just oil?
Absolutely. That's why you probably hear the people back home in our language, Miniwi Choni. I heard that quite a bit. Water is life, and which is true. We all sit here today. 85% of our bodies as human beings is water. And why water is so important is because water, everything. We need water to nourish, not just us, but this earth, this planet, the animals. And that's our way of life back home, all of that. And that's one of these things why I feel so passionate about what's going on today, is because we also have to remember the four-legged and the winged ones. Who's going to speak for them? Somebody's got to speak for them. And that's why I say, what we're doing today and why water is so important is because, it is a way of life to our people. And I just wanted to share those comments with you. Thank you.
I'm about to open it to the floor, but I guess the last thing I would want to ask is, can you tell us about the original plan to move it north of Bismarck? What was,
An interesting aspect of this whole pipeline was, and this was quite a few months back, was when we discovered that the original route, the original proposed route, I should say, was to cross north of Bismarck, North Dakota. Bismarck is the capital, community of roughly 75,000 people. But the river is narrow up there. We're talking a quarter-mile crossing down where we're at. It's probably an eighth of a mile or something like that. So it's narrow, so it makes sense to cross the narrowest, hopefully to have an impact. Now, we were told by a couple of different points of view here. One, the city of Bismarck did not want it. That's one of the points of view, because if something were to happen, it has a great impact on the capital city. So they didn't want the powers that be in that city. That was backed up by, and this is entirely not without a sense of irony here, is the Army Corps of Engineers turns around and said, "We're sorry, that route crosses too many wetlands and maybe dangerous things." And so they did an environmental assessment. They did not do a full environmental impact statement, but this environmental assessment steered the Army Corps differently. And so hence the reroute was just north of us. What's become really evident, and this really feeds into a lot of what Cody's saying, is one of the realizations we've had to have over the last 5 to 6 months is thinking about who we're dealing with, not on an individual basis, but on a big basis. The Army Corps of Engineers is a subsidiary, if you will, or a branch of the Army, military. And we have great pride. Native Americans have great pride in volunteering for the military and taking part in that. But we also realize that being in the military breeds a militaristic state of mind. Okay, the Army Corps of Engineers has that state of mind. We're often found that militaristic state of minds, there's acceptable collateral damage. Okay, we're tired of being acceptable collateral damage. So this reroute kind of reiterated that. And just after, I don't want to go too long here, but this feeds into a lot of other issues that have other long-standing issues. Cody mentioned the Flood Control Act, the Big Sloan project, to not only have these dams for power, but also to control the rivers, so the floodplains and whatnot. We've been petitioning for at least a couple of decades now. We have what's called taken lands, okay? If you were to draw a line on the proposed floodplain, the safety zone that the Army Corps of Engineers draws down the Missouri River, outside of Standing Rock or Sioux County in Morton County, that line hugs the Missouri River shoreline very closely. You can draw, it's just like it's tracing it. You hit the reservation line and they step it out in these big blocks. So we've been petitioning for the return of these taken lands for a lot of years. I don't know the exact number, but we've tried so many different approaches, it gets lost. There's 20,000 acres of flood control land. In 2010 and 11, we had what was considered a 100-year flood. Okay, it just wiped out a lot of areas in Bismarck. Did not affect us at all because the current floodplains were sufficient. We didn't need that 20,000 acres. So we go back and we ask them, well, give it back. Obviously, you don't need it. We went through a 100-year flood. We've done all this stuff. There's no need for it. No, they'll still have that. And so now we're pushing on the Congress part of it. So hopefully that can happen. So these are the battle that's going on with Dakota Access is just, again, the tip of the iceberg into a larger, more longer lasting battles, things that have been happening for so long. And again, it stems from that we're tired of being collateral damage. One other element was we've got, with the understanding of what a sovereign nation is, we have to understand the power of a treaty. Treaties and a lot of our documents are actually, they supersede state rights. We talk about Treaty of 1851. The state of North Dakota wasn't even a state until 1889. So we're already 4 treaties in, and then we've got what is called our Winters Doctrine, which is our right to the water, and something that we have never given, we've never sold anything on this. It entitles us to control of the river to the eastern bank. That has just never been recognized. It's never been acknowledged. So it's a fight that continues to be fought, and we've been doing it for so long. We're trying to find a way in. That's another, when we talk about the power of this movement and stuff, that's something from our standpoint, the seats that we have on our council is trying to make inroads. And right now, we're able to at least start picking our way at these long-standing fights, not only against DAPL, but everything else that's been going on with that. Just wanted to make a couple of those comments.
What you say about north of Bismarck?
Yes, please.
Yep. So north of Bismarck, yes, what I was told, like he said, is they didn't want it. City of Bismarck and Mandan didn't want that to cross. Because their actual words said it could possibly contaminate our water. That's exactly what they said. So they go ahead and put it, they said this is the safest route possible where this would be less affected downstream. So less amount of people, but there's still 18 million people that are going to be affected by this if something were to break. That's why it's not good to cross any rivers. And if you look at the map, I encourage you to look at there. If you know where Minot, North Dakota is, it's so easily just to go right north, keep going north and go around the Missouri River. It's so easy to do that. And, and I just, like I said, the way I look at it is over history, they always say the word genocide of our people. And today that's still happening, just in different forms and shapes and ways. And this is a modern day genocide is what they're trying to do to our people once again. And what you see up there in Cannibal it's precedent. I mean, it's unreal to be a part of something like that and to see this in our time. And it's humbling. I know she was there. She went to the camp. I know we didn't talk a lot about the camp yet, but us as a tribal council, we had over 350 resolutions from other tribes supporting this cause. We had over 150 city councils in this country that are in support of our tribe. And one particular one, which was shocking to me, is the state of New York. Recently, when our chairman was there, also passed a city resolution to support our efforts in Standing Rock. So, this is something that's very, very huge in time. And I know we haven't gotten to, like you said, other topics. But the way I see it is this is the last stand of fossil fuels and what they're trying to do in our country. And people are starting to stand up for their rights and where they live. Because I never thought it would come into my backyard. I always see it on the news, like, oh geez, that's horrible. And I never thought it would happen to my people. So if we think like that today, some of you where you live think you're not affected today, but I guarantee you it's coming. It really is, it's coming, and we have to change that in the way we move forward with renewable energies. We really have to think about that now. So those are my comments. Thank you.
I just wanted to make one more comment on the route. It's not this whole thing. We see a lot of things on social media and media in general, and little things strike me. I try to pick out what the public says. And one thing that was said about the route, this thing, it makes total sense. It's a third grade level thing, but it makes total sense. So somebody asked the question, somebody that was more pro-pipeline, how are we supposed to get it back over to the other side? And one of the comments was, well, if you don't cross it once, you never have to cross it twice, And I just thought that was a great little response, because it simplified that. The solution is exactly what Dakota is saying, is stay on the north side of the river and you never have to cross it. Well, we don't have a lot of those problems. Thank you.
I would like to open this to the floor. We have a really good group here. We'd love to hear some of your questions. Let them be questions and let them not take 8 minutes. Thank you. So please, go ahead.
My name is Brandon. I identify as an environmental activist, and my hope is that our country moves away from fossil fuels and developing infrastructure and reduces consumption as well as increasing renewable energy. My question is, how can environmental activists add our voice to your struggle? I find your struggle and the Sioux in the Pacific Northwest similar struggle with Enbridge so important and such crucial points in this fight against the fossil fuel infrastructure. How can we lend our voices without overshadowing your priorities and your need for sovereignty and self-determination?
Yeah, thank you. Good question. Long question, but I like those ones. No, definitely. I just want to share some information on you that I was a part of a panel in Southern Methodist University last week, and then I also was blessed to be a part of Leonardo DiCaprio and Fisher Stevens' movie Before the Flood. I got to sit on a panel at University of Stanford, and the people I met there, and I got to actually go to the headquarters of Solar City, and got to meet the head guy of Tesla. And let me tell you, the technology is there. You may not make as much money doing it today, like fossil fuels, but we're ready to make that change. It's just around the world. When I spoke with Leonardo and you watch Before the Flood, everyone around the world is making changes today except our country. We're the last ones on board to make this change, and we're the biggest problem for global warming in this country. We have a big percentage of that, and it's happening here in our backyards. So you asked the question, what can we do? And I'm just going to tell you what I guess my community is planning on doing with Solar City and Tesla. And it's time to start putting our money where it should be going. And it starts with the people. If the people truly want change, it's going to come from the people, you guys, everyone. And in my community, what we're going to do is we're going to try to move a camp closer to my community, and we're going to have on board a Tesla and Solar City, and we want to build an all-green camp. And then hopefully from there, we're going to try to go green in my community in Cannonball, in our communities in Standing Rock. And hopefully people will follow that direction now. Because like I said, the technology is there. It really is. I spoke to these engineers, these people that do these things on a day-to-day basis. And, it is a concern to me as well for like I said, my kids. But if it's that big of a concern, we all need to start looking towards the future and make change within our own homes. And that's where they're going to hurt the fossil fuel industry starting today. So thanks for the question.
I just want to add on to that. One of the simplest ways is to have a continued presence with this. The way this is really shaped up, it's become a very large platform for several interest groups, and I don't think it overshadows when we start talking about environment and things. When we're talking about water at the very core of it, but like I said, it starts to grow bigger than that. And when we start talking about renewables, this is a conversation that has to happen. The education has to happen. The fact that a lot of people are not exposed to the technology, that's a piece that we're really learning. Just like we did at the beginning of this, there has to be an educational component, and by staying involved, that's the big part of it. I've been looking at this water bottle, and I'm an English major, so the wordplay is kind of interesting to me. But you have this, and we buy this smart water, but all I have to do is flip it around, and we have to become water smart. And if we're water smart, we're starting to protect it, and to use it for what it's supposed to be. And by just being present, being aware, and using that platform for the educational, I think that will go a long way.
Hi,
Can you stand up? Thank you.
I'm also an environment student here, and I wanted to ask, we've heard so much about how this has captured like the attention of so many people in our country and the world. What more can we do other than just changing our Facebook statuses to be like checking in on Standing Rock to show solidarity? What can we actually do to help support your tribe and not just this struggle, but moving forward? Because you mentioned how the government, the U.S. government, certainly doesn't seem to want to help you. So maybe that's more as people that we can, as a people, help you. How can we help you against that?
I guess the quick answer is real similar. It's staying involved. That's the difficulty of movements, and one piece that a lot of people don't get is what falls on our shoulders, because not only are we trying to make something positive happen out of this movement, but we also have to take care of the people that it affects at home, the everyday life. And this has been said a lot, is we appreciate all the visitors, we appreciate and we invite all the people to come and support us, and it's absolutely phenomenal. But at the same time, we have always, and still will continue to say, we need it to be prayerful, spiritual, lawful, because the people that put us in office have to live here. When everybody else goes home, we have to deal with the racial relationships. We have to deal with the fallout, so to speak. But that fallout is lessened if there's continued involvement. It's not just a matter of a flashbulb event. It's got to continue to happen. What's really kind of neat is all the different movements that are out there. There's a lot of interconnectivity, and to keep those going, social justice things, environmental justice things, so on and so forth. You can keep going on and on, but they're interconnected because there are similarities in things that are not done by people in power, a lot of times, not done by other agencies. It's really that is staying active from not just now until the end of the movement, because it will come to an end eventually, but trying to keep it going. So that'd be my key points.
Also, just to comment on that real shortly, we all know who's the federal regulators in this country. It's DC, at the DC level. And, definitely I think the change where it's going to come is voting the right people in that want to make these changes moving forward. And we have a local guy from our reservation that grew up on Standing Rock is running against a guy that's pro-oil in our state, Chase Iron Eyes. He's running for Congress. So that's where it starts too. I mean, there's a lot of moving parts, and we say, where can we do it? Where do we need to start? I mean, we have to start putting these decision makers in the right areas so we can develop these issues coming from the national level. That's where I think it needs to begin also. It's good to be grassroots, that'll help too. But everything comes together, and at the end of the day, we need to have this government on board with these changes like the rest of the world. So definitely get out there and vote, because that's the most important thing you can do, is vote the right people in there for change that would truly do the right thing and move away from fossil fuels and put our federal money and our tax dollars towards these issues. Thank you.
Hi there. My father is a former councilman at the Klamath Tribe back in Oregon. He's recently become really involved with our water struggles. So we've been dealing with like fishing rights, like the allocation of water to farmers taken away from the reservation. And I guess I've been talking to him a lot since Standing Rock has been in the news, and the young people he works with have really, I guess, been energized by it. Like, it's been amazing to see this type of coverage of like solidarity and indigenous struggle in the context of like water in the context of working against like state powers. And I guess my question was, how do y'all see specifically Standing Rock in the context of a larger struggle against like colonialism and a larger struggle against the way in which like the state tries to suppress and kill indigenous communities?
Honestly, my personal view of Standing Rock is we're just a very the background of Standing Rock, we're the home pop-up band, and they all said we were the tip of the horn for Buffalo. Our concert chambers shaped like it and so on, and that's kind of the way I see it. Is we're kind of the spearhead, so to speak, but we're not the whole spear. We're just merely right now we've been able to through really no planning and very little true effort. I mean, we oppose things and we just happen to grab this platform. But we're willing to share that platform with everybody, and we want to I guess we're willing to put ourselves out there to just be the front. That you'll have no idea how intimidating it is to walk into rooms states away. We don't know what we're going to get. We don't know, are we going to get stuff thrown at us or not, or are we going to throw them out? We don't know. So it is intimidating, but we're willing to do it. Cody's been traveling several places to try to raise awareness. I'll be going to a few places after this and stuff. And intimidated or not, those are the questions with really bare conversation. And we're willing to start it. We hope everybody else jumps in there with the other tribes and there's 580 plus federally recognized tribes just in this nation. And then you have all the First Nations in Canada and all the worldwide. And we hope that that voice grows. Because there's been travesties, treaty travesties, not just for us, but with every tribe in the country.
And I agree with him. It's not just our fight. It's this fight's for everyone. And just to kind of piggyback on SMU and what they told me, they keep telling me pipelines are the safest transport way to move oil. But then I came back and I told them, so how many options do we have? Railway, trucks, pipelines? And I said, to me, that may be the safest of the three. But to me, there is no safe way. And that's what I told them. And it's not about people dying or they're trying to give me statistics about. Nobody has died. One person has died in the last 10 years of oil production, all these statistics, right? These pro-oil people. When I tell them, it's not about death. I said, it's about having to pay $10 or $15 in the next 20 years for a bottle of water. That's what it's about. You know what I mean? And I definitely know what you're saying. This is the first time that people are coming together, even non-natives at the camp. We had, for all races of life come through there. And it's a beautiful thing to see, to unite as one against these one percenters, these corporations of this country that control everything. And just to give you one example of why this is such a great ordeal, and this is not something that Standing Rock asked for. We didn't take it by the reins. It was for some reason given to us in a way where today, as I walk, I still don't know where I'm going, but we're guided by the Creator through prayer. And that's how we continue to move forward. And things just happen in a good way, as long as we stay with prayer. But to give you one example, we passed a motion about a month ago to do away with all the banks associated with Dakota Access Pipeline and Energy Partners LLC. Our tribe took that stand. And when we took that stand a month ago, now we're seeing a mass movement of people doing the same thing. And that's what it's going to take, is everybody coming together, uniting regardless of your race, for a change for everyone. And that's what I see out of this movement right now. Is I see that, once we put our minds together, we will make a better life for our children. And that's what we're starting to stand up for today. And that's just one example. There's many, many examples that, if we come together, we can end fossil fuels. We can move in a new direction. So those are my comments. Thank you.
My name's Maple. I moved from Vermont a year ago, and some of the people, the rising tide people, are coming out to help with that building. Some of the people I knew, but I didn't tie myself to headlines. They have tree sits, and we're talking about the banks. There's TD Bank out there, so they're taking their money, and they had a protest at the bank, and a lady walked in and took all her money because she hadn't accounted there. So it's like a lot of creative things to do. I do have a main question. I'm also a raging granny. I'm a new raging granny, just saying. They're all over the country. I'm your grandma, which I am, and we are having a meeting tomorrow actually to see what we can do in connection with you guys mostly. And we came up with, some of the women did a search, and they found out that this is so loaded, it's so connected, right, with the press and Amy Goodman, and it's all coming out at your camps. So how suppressed it is, and there's barely any YouTubes, and they're way far away from the action because of the riot gear, private cops. And we found out, one of the ladies found out, there's a company in Apex, and it's the private security is related, and they're doing the security. Tiger Swan. So they're here. So that's an example, and I was going to see if that sounded like a good idea to you as an example of something we could do locally to do it in an organized way. And the other thing was, how about Army Corps of Engineers? I was thinking of that because they're everywhere. There's one in Raleigh, there's one in Asheville. Is that a good idea to you, or is that part of the, like, Obama said, oh no, stop, that's over with, right? Is the Army Corps still a go-ahead now? It's so confusing about who's doing what. Thank you.
You know what, I think it's all a good idea. That the more people raise their voices, the more people will have to hear. And that goes on all fronts, when you're talking about security companies and stuff. One of the interesting things about the investor movement and the push on investors is pushing them to be socially conscious about what they're backing. That's how I got a chance to sit on a conference call when we decided that we're going to move away from Wells Fargo. And we asked them point blank, do you have a social advisor for your investments? Are you looking at these companies you're investing in? Because this reflects back on you. Their answer was, well, we hired them about a month ago. A little late. But this is the power of the people is really impressive if they did it. We all went out and, if I took $1 out of my bank account, they wouldn't notice. If we all took $1 out, it starts to get noticed. Now if you start taking 100 times all of us, and it grows. That's what makes a difference, is the more people that do these things to everybody, they start to take notice. It is not lost on me nor for very many people that the driving factor of this whole thing is the almighty dollar. How can we transport the most oil for the least cost so we can make the most margin? Well, guess what? All of us can hit that just as well. With investment banks and things like that, we all use these institutions, but we also have an influence on those institutions because we invest in them. So the hardest question to ask is yourself. Am I investing in a company that's not socially conscious? Do I bank at the Wells Fargo's, the things like that, who do that? If they do, we're part of the problem, not part of the solution. So we have to, and those are the difficult ones because we have to look in the mirror. And we start pulling our money and say, we want the institutions we support to be more socially conscious. They'll have to listen if enough people do that. So I think they're all a great idea.
Absolutely, they are a great idea. As a matter of fact, let's go right now. No, I'm just kidding. Yes, just to tell you a quick story, when we had a council meeting, we had somebody come from Flint, Michigan, and came all the way to Standing Rock, and he was crying, and he told us his story. And that's why I truly believe that, you know, I'm not saying what Standing Rock does today is going to help what's going on, but I definitely say it's a platform. You know, we don't, like I said, we didn't want this honor, but it was given to us. Now we have a platform for the future. And he came to us and asked us, what can we do to help our situation in Flint? You know, what can we do to make noise out there? You know, because they were struggling out there. They still are today. And, you know, it was kind of heartfelt that he came all the way from, you know, Michigan to tell us his story at Standing Rock. And that's why I tell you, you know, it's important that, you know, what we do moving forward, we have to do it together and move together as one now. Because it is time for change. And like I said, and the only thing I ask is when you do go to action, or if you do go to Standing Rock, or if you do go and protest somewhere, is to do it with peace and prayer, because that's the only way you're going to win. And what I continuously tell my people in my community is when you're out there, remember who you're representing. You're representing your family. You're representing where you come from. And you need to represent them in a good way. And I've told them this many times that once we stoop to their level, we're no better than them. So definitely, you know, on any action we do take it on that route, and that's something our tribe has continuously said and continuously in support of, is peace and prayer. So I just wanted to make those comments.
What was something in the back you had been doing for a while? That was you. All right, thank you.
Hi there, my name is Luke Sayer. I'm being solidarity of massive amount of people in this way. We raised $4,000 to get the fact for you guys. Thank you for doing. We do the same moving forward. And I have a question related to promising coming out saying we're going to move through, we're looking at rereading it on last 24 hours. If that does happen, I mean, I just acknowledge how bigger the iceberg of injustice is for your people, and how can we still, you know, support efforts to get Black people back and all the other sort of injustices if that decision does happen. And will you see that decision as a win, or is there another avenue on this particular campaign?
Just to clarify about the win part, we all think we won already because we're getting notice. So there's a lot of things we can take from that. The answer to your question about how do you continue support, it's much the same answer. It's the social injustices have to continue to be noticed. They have to be continued to be commented on, and they have to be made to be unacceptable. Unfortunately, we've let them become acceptable, and not just in Standing Rock, but all across the nation, across the world, we have largely looked the other way, or they're over the hill, not our problem. And eventually it feeds down into our own lives. So it's to keep the fire going, so to speak. We at the camp, we've got a fire, spirit fire that keeps going, and there's a fire tender to keep it going. And it's very symbolic, and it would be a great symbol for that too, is to continue that fire going, because the social injustices, you know, tribes are not the only peoples that have had this kind of history, but you start putting them together in a big package, then you gotta say all of this is unacceptable, all of it. And if we continue to do that, and you can only hope, but hope's a powerful thing, and you know, we'll get that changed eventually, but we have to keep on it. Like I said, the movement is gonna come to an end. I wouldn't say the movement, the protest itself will come to an end. The movement, I hope, continues. So we'll put it that way.
Yes, a good question. What I see out of this whole thing, like he said, regardless if they happen to lay that pipeline on our people again, And if it still goes through, the way I look at it, like he said, and we've been talking as a council and as Standing Rock, is we have already won, regardless of what happens. And how did we win? It's because we united a country, we united a world that gets the big picture now. And what I see good coming out of this is I see reform. Reform meaning policies that need to be changed so things like this don't happen so easy anymore. Policies in the Clean Drinking Water Act where, it'll make it more difficult for pipelines to cross any streams of water in this country. And that's what I see coming out of this, is that by the people standing up, they're putting pressure on DC to be more accountable with their decisions. And to start putting the right people at the table to make these decisions. And us being the first people in this land that we live on today, it's kind of mind-boggling that we have yet to have a seat at the table on these decisions. And not just for our people, indigenous people, but for everyone, but just basically creating reform at the DC level. And I think that's been a series of meetings that's been going on now. I think they're having a series of 5 meetings of consultation to talk about what is true consultation to tribes, indigenous peoples. They're also going to look at the eminent domain. Is that something that they need to do away with or make it more stranglehold on taking people's land? All this is all going to come together by what this movement has created. And it's going to force our legislative body at the DC level to make those changes. So at the end of the day, we all won at the end of the day. And we'll continue, like Councilman Harrison said, we'll continue this fight, keep pressing, because that's what it's going to take. But I see reform.
So we're about at the end of the time, and since I'm the moderator, I'm taking the mic for a quick second. So thank you both for being here. I want to acknowledge that this is Native American Heritage Month, and this is hosted in part by NASA, our Native American Student Alliance. And so this is a non-Standing Rock DAPL question. I was wondering if there's wisdom or counsel that you would give to our Native students here that you would want to encourage them with as they're, undertaking this journey.
Okay, let's switch the topic.
Yeah,
Threw me off.
Actually, one of the most interesting things about being Native American is the 1%. Okay, but 1% is just a number. One of the things that has been driven home, and I'll relate it to, is through this whole movement that I mentioned earlier, how intimidating it is to go out, but also how prideful it is to be a part of something, not just the movement, but real specifically, the pride to be a part of Standing Rock is huge. For Native students, oftentimes we get stuck behind the 8 ball, so to speak. Reservations have impoverished areas. Our 2 counties on the reservation, Corson County, South Dakota, Sioux County, North Dakota, are I think number 7 and 9 poorest counties in the country on a routine basis. So our reservation constitutes 2 of the top 10 poorest counties in the nation. So coming from there, I have to say that persistence pays off. Don't jump me, you guys, but I went to school at the University of Notre Dame, and so go Irish. But going there, I faced a lot of situations, and being able to sit with some of the members here from NASA and talk to them about just real briefly going from A a 99% majority on the reservation to a 1% minority in this school and in the nation, but also how difficult it is to adjust to jumping into exposure into different social classes. And that's very difficult. But I was the president of our American student group back in school. And I always told people, I said, right, or my students, they're my colleagues, but at the same time, they're my students. I told them, it's more important right now in your life to graduate, to have the degree, to have the education, than it is to go out and do all the social justice movement. I mean, and I say that from the bottom of my heart because with the degree, with the step up the ladder, so to speak, you gain a greater audience. You are able to capture a greater audience. And that in turn helps pull up the other people behind us. So if I learned anything through my experiences, that is it, that the persistence pays off. And that can be spread to any student who wants to better their situation. I'll close with this is one of the things I get asked about a lot is why I moved home. Right after graduating college, I actually lived in Hawaii for a year, and I don't know why I moved back to North Dakota, but I did. Of course, I was homesick, but the answer is clear to me now, many years later. I've always wanted and I've always loved my home. So my feeling is simply this: I want to make my home better rather than going to find a better home. And the same can be said for relating this to the whole DAPL movement. I want to make our world better. I don't want to try to find a better world anywhere else. So I'm with that.
I don't know how I'm supposed to follow up on that. He's stealing my thunder up there. No, I'm just kidding. No, I just want to let you know that I sit on the education committee for our tribe. So I make a lot of decisions. I get to see statistics quite a bit come through my office, come through the door, on Native Americans in particular. And I know there's a lot of other minority groups that also go to school here. And, you know, we're all unique in a certain way. And I want to say those things, but you know, the poverty rates on reservations, with alcohol, drugs, suicide, not having adequate resources, and also at the college level, we don't have adequate studies within our high schools sometimes on reservations to transition to the college level. So that's where we see a lot of dropouts, different types of things. So that's my job, to try to better that on the reservation, is better education for our people. So like Chad said, they can come home and share that education with our people to make a better place to live. And that's the ultimate goal. And one thing that I saw, like he said, was, you know, as Native peoples, you know, we've been oppressed people, we've been through some genocides, we have that historical trauma, is what I call it, that all plays a factor in also education. And knowing, you know, when a lot of Native kids go off to college, they mourn for their home a lot of times, because that's the only place they've ever known, because it's so remote out there sometimes. And to see, you know, Native American students, especially at the Duke level, it's encouraging. It really is to see that. And that was very eye-opening to notice that there was a lot of, not just natives, but a lot of diverse kids at this school. So I'm very, very proud to come here, and I'd like to thank NASA for allowing us to be a part of this. And it's just a great experience. It's a humbling experience. And thank everybody for coming for a common cause. You know, and at the end of the day, it is about education. One way or another, it's about informing ourselves, educating ourselves on what's happening out there in this world. And education plays a big role in that. So definitely, the more and more you read, the more and more you learn, you're bettering yourselves, and you're bettering your community, you're bettering your family. So thank you all for letting us come in.
We have one more announcement. We want to listen to that because they're about to invite us into a next step.
Hi everyone, so thank you all for coming. I really appreciate you all here. I just wanted to, I can't follow anything better than that to close. But I just wanted to let you guys know that we are actually going to take a solidarity photo after this. We made a banner, a huge banner that says we stand with Standing Rock, and that'll be in front of the chapel. So we're all just gonna head over there right now and take a photo. So if you'd like to be in it, we're gonna send it out to a couple of newspapers here locally and try to call other universities to have events like this and to have these kinds of conversations. So thank you all for coming. Take care.
Chase Iron Eyes. Iron Eyes.